Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ingrid and this is Ingrid Reads a Lot. For today's video, I am doing my October TBR because we are almost in October and I feel like the month of September was sort of a mess for me. I think part of the reason for that, as you will see on my September wrap up, is that my reading had like no rhyme or reason. I had nothing in my head that I said that I was thinking to myself, oh, I really want to read that, or I should read this, or for whatever reason. So I'm going to attempt to make a list of books that I would like to get to in the month of October. With that said, who knows if I will actually do that. But yeah, these are the books I want to get to. There's some spooky books, there's a fantasy, there's fairy tale books. I just want to kind of give myself some room. Also, there's not a ton of books because I want to give myself some room for mood reading also, because I think I've attempted to do TBRs before, and part of the reason why I don't stick to them is because it gets to parts of the month that I'm supposed to be reading these said books and then I want to read something else. So if I don't put too many books on my TBR, there's some room for mood reading, then maybe I will actually stick to said TBR. All right. What else am I going to say? Let's get started because this is way too long. First up on my TBR for the month of October is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This is a horror novel. Obviously, it's October, but from my understanding, this is set in the 80s and it's about two friends where one of the friends believes that her friend is being possessed by a demon, and I guess it's going to take you on a ride. I really like the cover of this book. It's a very 80s. Excuse the sun over here, but I just love it. And I love Grady Hendrix. He's one of my favorite authors, so I figure I will enjoy this book. We will see. Next up, we have Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. This is a dark fairy tale, I believe, like sort of fantasy. And our main character, Mara, is going on a rescue mission to rescue her sister who is in an abusive relationship. I think it's sort of found family aspect to this as well. I have heard amazing things about this book. Elle from Elia Brooks really loves this, and I think she really loves T. Kingfisher as an author, and I don't think I've read anything by her yet. I think I do have a couple of her books, but I haven't actually read anything. So I'm gonna pick this one up. I think it's a safe choice. I also own What Moves the Dead by the same author, so if I enjoyed this, maybe we'll get into this. We'll see. But yes, I own two books by this author, but I haven't read anything yet. We'll see. Next up, we have Mr. Magic by Kirsten White. This is a supernatural thriller. I think what this book is about is that these kids were all in sort of like a kid show, and something happened with their show when they're grown up already, and the show is no longer being filmed, but they have no evidence of any episodes of the show, and they sort of just have their memories of what happened and of this host, Mr. Magic. They end up back in the filming facility, and I think some weird stuff happens. What I think is, I don't know obviously what the reveal will be, but I think that they just don't know what or who this Mr. Magic person is. The adults now who were kids at the time probably didn't really know what was going on. So I'm kind of curious about this. I want to know what this is about. And Kirsten White is actually a YA author, and she's written a couple of books in the YA genre, YA like historical fantasy genre. So I'm excited to see how she does with like suspense and thriller and horror-ish, it sounds like. So we'll see what I think about this. Next up, we have a book of the month, and this is The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa and Matlin. This sounds like it's a thriller about this woman that buys a house with gets a really good deal on a house because someone died in the house. But it also sounds like she has some secrets. She sort of has a failing marriage, and as she's renovating this house, some weird things start to happen. It's all the good stuff about like that blend of horror / thriller for me. I just love that like halfway genre, so I really think I'm gonna enjoy this. We'll see. It kind of, the premise, not everything obviously, but the premise sort of reminds me of Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, which was also a sort of haunted house type thing, but I really enjoyed it, so I think I'm gonna like this one too. I don't know, it's not even, obviously not the same author, but the premise reminds me of it, so I think I will I think I will enjoy it. All right, and then we have something that I've attempted to read before. I actually got a good way through it, 126 pages through it, and that is The Good House by Tananarive. This is an actual horror novel, and it's very scary, and that's why I stopped reading it at the time I was reading it. And also, I'm pretty sure I attempted to read this last October, and I really wasn't in the mood for horror at the time, so I think that was part of the reason too. But I remember being into this, but being really scared to read it, because I would be like, you know, when I have time to read is when I'm supposed to go to sleep soon, so then I'm like, oh my god, I shouldn't read this before bed and all that stuff. I'm going to try to get through it again. If I get scared, then I will probably just, you know, DNF it, but I want to read this. It's about a haunted house, obviously, and I'm into it. So I think I'm gonna get through it this time. I just wasn't too much in the mood for it before, but I remember liking it, so I think I will be able to get through it. Teacher Ingrid here, interrupting this video to add a couple more books to this October TBR. And literally, you're gonna keep hearing me talk about the fact that, oh, I don't want to add too many books because I want to mood read and blah blah blah, but here I am. I want to add Fledgling by Octavia Butler on this list, and I know that this is a vampire fantasy book by Octavia Butler, obviously. All I know is that they find this little girl in the woods, and it turns out that she's a 53-year-old vampire. So that sounds really interesting, and I wanted to add it to my October TBR. Two other books that I don't have with me because I'm too lazy to go grab them, but Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This is a gothic fantasy YA series, and this sounds like it's a murder mystery type thing. Our main character, I think her name is Signa? Yeah, our main character's name is Signa, and she is orphaned, ends up going to live with the Hawthorns, and turns out there's a murder mystery going on. Our main character has to team up with Death to find out who killed the matriarch of the family, I believe. It's something like that, and that sounds like spooky gothic vibes that I want to read, so that's why I'm adding this. And then last but not least on this Interruption, we have Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. I read Such Sharp Teeth by this author, and I really enjoyed it, and I saw that this one was coming out, and I ran out to grab it. Vesper is our main character, and it sounds like her family has some sort of dark history going on. She goes back home to her town, and I think she has to figure out what is going on, and that's all I know about this. I really enjoyed that other book I read by this author, so I'm going to try a new one, and then if I like this, maybe this author is going to be an auto buy for me, and then I'll try to read her backlist. But yes, this sounded interesting. I love me some family drama, so I'm here for it. Okay, back to the other Ingrid. And then next up we have a couple of books that I'm going to attempt to read/reread, and they're kind of chonkers, so that's why I didn't pick up a lot of other books, but I want to reread these now because or read and then reread, because I feel like if I don't, I'm never going to get through it. It's one of those things that I'm going to do it for a live show with friends, so I think that's kind of the push I need. But basically, I am going to reread. Let me grab it because I didn't grab the reread. All right, I'm going to reread The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I don't even have to think about that. I know I looked at the cover. I remember when I read this, I absolutely fell head over heels. I thought that this was the best fantasy I had read up to that point in my life, and I think I read this a couple of years ago, or maybe 3. I don't remember exactly when, but then I never continued on. And this is one of those stories that's like has so many characters, so many things about the world, that I feel like I can't just jump into Words of Radiance without rereading, because I feel like I'm gonna be lost. And I know that there are those like summary websites where you can go in and it'll tell you basically, sorry, ignore the sun over here. It'll tell you exactly what, like a summary of what happened. But I think I want to reread it so that I, one, see if I really, if I still agree that I think it's one of the best fantasy novels I've read. And 2, because I want to go into Words of Radiance fresh. And I read somewhere too that it's really good to reread it because the second book is literally like, it's right after the events of the first book. So yeah, these 2 chunkers I'm going to attempt also in the month of October. I don't know if I actually will get through all these books this month, but I want to. And you know, the thought is what counts. So, but yeah, if you guys, this is a quick little video I wanted to film. If you guys enjoyed it, please let me know. I will see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.